Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything. I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're going to continue on with my Agincourt project, which I'm kind of renaming it as the 100 Years War project. Really because I'm not focusing specifically on that single battle. I'm focusing on the overall era, and we can come up with a bunch of different scenarios and battles. It doesn't have to be focused on that one. As you know, I was collecting models for the 100 Years War, the Agincourt project, and my intention was to use Hail Caesar. But I basically grew out of Hail Caesar in the Middle Ages. It's great for the earlier years, earlier periods. It's probably pretty good for the Middle Ages as well. I haven't played a medieval battle in Hail Caesar, and it just didn't feel right playing the same game that I'm using my Romans in to use my late Middle Ages. So what I did was I went out and looked for a variety of rules, and one of the main focus areas for me was not the miniature scale, not the number of figures. I don't care if there's 100 million figures. That really didn't have anything to do with it. The main thing was speed of play. I wanted to be able to play a game in 4 hours or less. I wanted to be able to set it up, put the models on the table, have some new players that have never played the game before sit around the table with me. I explain, like basically a convention game, and explain the rules. We actually start playing. But I also wanted it to be something that was more than that, just something that could be played on a random night with some friends, or just beer and pretzels kind of game, but not so simple or so dumbed down that it wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for, wasn't enjoyable. Because I like a game that's got a little bit of meat and potatoes to it, but I don't want it to be so bogged down in rules that it becomes unenjoyable. Okay, so I went looking. I found a set of rules called Lion Rampant. I think I've already talked about this on the stream. Lion Rampant by Osprey Publishing. They made another game called Field of Glory. So I was hesitant to get this set of rules because Field of Glory was too many rules. Anytime I'd go to an event and people were playing Field of Glory, they were super hyper competitive, overly obnoxious rules mongers, that kind of stuff. And I just didn't get into it. So I was hesitant to get these rules. But then I watched a few videos on YouTube, and I read a couple of articles, and a lot of people were saying that Lion Rampant was this whole series. All the books kind of look similar, but this whole wargame series that Osprey put out was a fairly straightforward, fairly easy to learn skirmish rules, right? And I was like, skirmish, for the Middle Ages, that sounds appropriate. Because they didn't really fight in ranks. Yes, they had the shield wall and things like that, but it wasn't like Napoleonics, and it wasn't, when the knights charged, there's a wild mess. And when they go into hand-to-hand combat, it's a wild mess. It wasn't rank and file per se, unless unless they formed like a shield wall or a shield turret or something like that, or they had like pikes or spears or something like that. In that case, they would. But overall, I was like, that sounds like a really cool idea. Let's do a skirmish game. And most people were saying, it's a D6 game, so it's Hail Caesar. And they said, you roll a bunch of dice and you move models and you take them off, and there's only like three actions. You don't have to worry about formations, and I was like, it sounds like the kind of game I'm looking for. So I looked it up and I said, oh wow, $12.95. I can afford to spend, well, this is £11.99, $17.50 US. But you can find it places. I found it for, I don't remember where I bought it. It wasn't directly from Osprey, but I think I bought it somewhere for like $12.95 or something like that. And I said, I'm willing to spend $12.95 for a rule book just as an experiment. you know. And plus, if nothing else, it'll have artwork from Osprey in there, and so it's got to be good. So I ordered it. I got it in. I don't know how to say this. I'm very pleased with it. I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. It's probably like, I don't know, maybe a 7. But still, that's pretty good. I'm kind of a critic when it comes to rules. There's a few things in this I don't like, but there's more things I like than I dislike. So I said, you know what? I probably don't have a big enough army. I probably don't have enough figures, because what I did was I ordered 4 boxes of Perry models, right? I ordered a box of mounted knights. I ordered a French army. Or I should say French army, English army, and then just plain old foot knights. I ordered all those boxes, and I got them put together, and I put them into like groups, and I worked out the points from this game on like how many points do I actually have and how many units do I actually have. Well, I got more than enough. I got those 4 boxes, so just about $120 approximately. $120. I had enough figures to do 3 armies. I didn't need that many, but I needed all those boxes mainly because only the French one had crossbows. Only the English one had longbows. The mounted knights, they're the only ones with mounted figures. And those could be either yeomen, men-at-arms, or sergeants, just depending on how you assemble them. And you get 12 of them. So that's 2 units of cavalry. Actually, my box came with 18 riders, but only 12 horses. So I went ahead to Front Rank Games and I ordered some horses. They were like 2 pounds, £1.75, something like that. And you get a horse. And so it's a metal horse. And I don't know if you can see those guys, but those horses right there, that's metal horses with plastic Perry riders. What the hell? Made them into horse archers, because they got the longbows. They're the yeomen, mounted yeomen. Okay. Okay, so I had to sit back, and I just, when I opened those boxes, I was just assembling models, putting arms on them, putting weapon. There was no rhyme or reason. I was just like randomly putting it together. And then when I got to building the army out of these points, I was like, uh-oh, I got to make sure I got the right guys in the right places. So I pull all my spearmen out, and I made like a spear unit. There's another couple of spear units over there. These are the heavily armored spear sergeants, and those are the spear yeomen. And then I said, okay, what about men-at-arms? Well, most of the knights are men-at-arms. And then what about sergeants? You know, I got some sergeants here and there, like I said. And then I've got the crossbowmen, which surprisingly enough, the box comes with 12 crossbowmen, and 12 crossbowmen is a unit in this game. It comes with 24 longbowmen. Guess what? 12 longbowmen is a unit. So that's 2 longbow units. Basically, it worked out almost perfectly. And I've got you can print these off from the Osprey site and build up your units with points and write down all their stats and stuff. I didn't bother doing all that. I just wrote down the points. But my French army has 38 points, and my English army is 42 points. And that's approximate, you know, because I stopped counting. You're supposed to play with a 24-point army. So that's why I said 38 and 42. I'm sitting at 80 points. I'm sitting at 80 points. That's almost 4 armies. Because 24 points an army. I could get one more box and have 4 armies. You know, it's crazy. So, at this time period with this many men-at-arms, you're only looking at maybe 4 units on the table. If you want to take archers or crossbowmen and yeomen, you might have 5 or 6 units on the table. you know, which to me that's not really enough to have a very exciting game. Plus, that's expecting you to play on like a 4x6 table. Well, I've got a 5x9 table, and it does say in the rules, scale your army how you want. If you want to play with 100 points, play with 100 points. If you want to play with 20 points, play with 20 points. They said it, depending on how many points you play with, will affect like how many leaders you might have, because you might have 2 leaders if you have that many points. Or if you're playing multiplayer, they have rules for multiplayer actions. If you want to, and so I was getting excited about that. I said, you know, I could play with like multiple friends, and we each can have our own 24-point army, and then we could go at it, which is about 4 units per player. That's manageable, you know, that's super easy. So then I said, okay, what about the mechanics of the game, right? So the figures, got it, no problem. But what about the what do you call it? What about the rules, right? And I was like, okay, so you got to roll for command. Same thing as Hail Caesar. You got to roll for command. Each unit, like each group of guys, you got to roll for command. They move as a mob, right? So you designate like a leader, and the guys who run around them, and you shoot, you charge, there's like 3 things you can do. Attack, move, and shoot. So moving is just moving. Attacking is when you're actually physically charging an enemy. And then shooting is when you're standing still shooting. And there's some special rules. Different types of units have special abilities, like longbowmen as opposed to just regular bowmen, as opposed to crossbowmen. There's leaders. They have duels. You have mounted men-at-arms and foot men-at-arms and mounted yeomans and foot yeomans. You have serfs. Fierce foot. You know, fierce foot are more like your Ireland, Scottish Isles, Pagan Baltan states. They're basically like, I don't know, maybe Arabs. I don't know. So I was like, okay, and it doesn't have to be high medieval. It could be any medieval. But a man-at-arms is basically the cream of the crop, right? And then you got the sergeants, which are kind of like squires, if you want to look at it like that. Even though the squires would probably also be men-at-arms. But you have like your sergeants are like your well-trained guys, and then your yeomans are like your levies or guys that you pulled up off the ground. And then the serfs are just pitchforks. You know what I mean? Okay. Enough of that. Awesome rules. I'm going to do a video tonight on the rules, so I need to skip that right now. But I'm going to be doing a video on the rules. I'm sorry, I got all over the place on this video. But let me go ahead and continue on with the project. As you can see, I've got these 7 units already painted. They're fully painted and flocked. There's only a couple of things I need to do, like banners. And I've got a couple of actual standard bearers. I think I got 3 of them. There's like 1, 2, and maybe... Okay, maybe just 2. Well, I don't know. I'm losing my mind. 1, 2, 3. There we go. I thought I had 3. 3 standard bearers plus like spearmen can have banners and stuff like that flying. It'll look really cool. So we're gonna do that. I pulled out this Old Glory figure I used to have. He's kind of a Norman knight. He's got a kite shield and he's got not a Spangen helm, but it's a flat face helm, flat top helm. I'm just going to go ahead and put him in this unit there to flesh that unit out to be 6, right? And he could be the leader either way. You know, that's the idea. His base isn't flocked, so I just, whatever. I'm adding him to my units. Okay. Enough of the figures. As you know, I was trying to find a color for magnets so that I could put models on the magnet if I wanted to use them as a block of units. Like if I wanted to play Hail Caesar, I could take my models and I could put them on these magnets and move them around in clumps like Hail Caesar or Black Powder or any of those Warlord games. Well, I decided I really didn't need to do that because I'm going with the 1-inch circles, and they're not going to fit on a 40 by 40 base unless I overlap them or something. I could get some 50 millimeter bases, and then 4 of these would go on there, and that would be okay. I said, okay, sure. But in that process, as you know, I went and looked up all kinds of green paint to find the right one that matched the flock that I was using, which at this time, is the Army Painter flock, and it's working great, and all the colors, all the green colors, they didn't match. So I went to Home Depot today to get some mulch for my wife, and when I did that, I said, you know what, I'm going to go check out their paints, because all the other ones I looked at were at Lowe's and Walmart. So I said, you know what, Home Depot's probably got some different colors, and I found this guy. It's called Eden. It's satin, but it's called Eden satin. And I said, oh man, that color and this, that's like almost a perfect match. So what I did was, I didn't have the figure with me, but I could tell that's almost like a perfect match. So I went and I bought it, and I brought it home, and I sprayed a magnet with it, right? This magnet is Eden, right? But you can see those colors aren't exactly the same. But I said, you know what, let me throw some models on these magnets. That's pretty damn close. Yeah, I'm thoroughly liking the Eden. I even sprayed a little bit of flat, because this is a satin. I sprayed a little bit of flat, and yeah. So what I probably will need to do is cut these magnets down to 50 millimeters and mount them to some bases so that I could have some 50 millimeter bases. But I don't know if I'm going to bother with any of that. I'm probably not going to do that. So it was just an idea. I don't think I'm going to do. I might do it. I don't know. If I'm going to mount them singly, I want to put them on 1-inch bases, and 1-inch bases make them too big for the magnet concept. So probably I adopted the magnet, and like 1 week later I decided, not going to do it. Okay, so okay, my old washers. This is just another aspect of the story that's continuing. My old washers I got at Lowe's. These are 1-inch fender washers. You can't really see this, but there is a giant 1/4 inch hole right in the middle. So all of these models, luckily, will cover that hole, but just barely, right? They have their own personal bases that fit on top of this base, and I put a little glue around the edge and put it on so that they would stick. I was never super happy with the 1/4 inch holes. And then while I was there, I noticed that they had the Everbuilt ones, the ones that I've always used in the past, which these Everbuilt fender washers, they had a pack of 3, and I said, whoa, a pack of 3? Hell no. It's like $1 something, and I was like, screw that. So I found this little blister pack of 100 fender washers for $8. And the hole is 1/8 inch, right? And so you can see the difference. It's a considerable difference between this giant hole and this tiny hole. And with this tiny hole, it'll less glue will seep through. It's the one I put this on. This is a tiny hole, and I took my Italian olive and sprayed these bases, which is not this color, you know. And that's for the next group as I paint those. All right, so I'm working on the cav, almost done with those. I'm gonna have a video at the end of this video showing off all these models. I didn't go with super detailed heraldry. I went with unit concepts like white and red, yellow and blue, green, blue, yellow, you know, stuff like that. So it wasn't too complicated. I sprayed silver, used a dark wash over the whole thing, painted, then over the stuff I painted, I used actually over the entire model, I used a strong wash, and then I went back and sprayed with a flat clear coat. So that's how they were painted. All right, so later tonight I'll record the tutorial on how to play Lion Rampant, and come back and watch that, because that video will probably be uploaded the next day. See you next time.